Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Sketchbook Files. Originally, I had planned on doing prompts for every single episode of the Sketchbook Files, but I think what I'd like to do instead is just ideas. They don't need to be prompts necessarily, so we're going to take a break from the prompts. And I have kind of a fun idea today where we're going to do a bit of a doodle with some depth to it. I'm going to show you how I kind of mix my automatic drawing and drawing in perspective or isometric projection, whatever you want to use. So how I like to do it, I think what really helps is just throwing in a horizon line. And then we're going to build up some simple shapes and then kind of do automatic drawing over that. So I've got it about, between a third and a halfway up the page. That's going to be our horizon line. And then about halfway in between there, we're just going to draw another little line. And that's just going to be where, because the automatic drawing is just kind of a big pillar, monolith. No, what's the word? Like a monument or something, I guess. So we're going to start with kind of a base, right? So we're just going to draw a big rectangle right here. And each section of the drawing is going to be kind of flat, but once you get all these components put together, it'll add a lot of depth to it. Then you could just draw another little line here, and we'll do another piece kind of right in front of it. Something like that. Okay, so what we're going to do next is, and this is where you want to kind of, get in the zone and, push all your thoughts out of your head and just kind of start to doodle a little bit, right? But keeping in mind that it's a pillar coming up off of this base here. And just kind of push your pencil around wherever it feels natural. I imagine shapes a lot, so it's pretty easy for me to just kind of space out here and just draw some shapes, some tubes, whatevers. And yours doesn't have to look like mine at all. You draw yours however you want. It could be organic shapes, maybe it's all curvy, right? Maybe it's got, here, we'll draw some curvy shapes in, right? Or maybe it's very, it's got a lot of angles. Maybe it's got sharp points coming up, I'll draw some of that in there. Maybe it's a big cylinder here, or a big rectangle with a rounded top. I don't know. I mean, that's just how I'm kind of doing it here. And then just kind of coming through and spacing out, but making sure everything connects together. And then we'll draw a top. I want it to come poking out here. And we can just sketch, stay loose. In fact, I'm gonna erase this edge here. And you can erase, there's no rule against that. There's no, when you're doing stuff like this, there aren't any rules. Don't let people tell you how to do it. It's as long as you are relaxed and it's not a battle, right? If you're concentrating on what you're doing super hard, you're doing it wrong. That's really the point. It's to be loose. You're barely thinking about the drawing. Maybe a little bit, but just barely, right? this thing's coming up. You know, it doesn't, because that's the thing is if you completely don't think, it's just going to be a bunch of random lines on the page, you know. So you can exert a little bit of control over it, right? That's how you get those shapes, you know. And I don't know, I feel like there should be kind of a facial sort of element to it. So I'm just going to kind of draw a little bit of a head or something. Vague, just very vague. And yeah, so yeah, there we go. And that's kind of here's our horizon line. Here's our sort of doodle pillar. Let's add a little bit of curve to the bottoms of these, maybe, just to give them a little bit of dimension that way. And then I almost forgot about this one in the front here, so let's just add some shapes coming up off of it. And then, bam, you've got something, I don't know, kind of like that. You can extend your base out if you want, over here. Very cool. You can even come and have it come off the page, right? Like maybe, oh, it goes over here somewhere. That's fine. Just very casual, very, yeah, don't fight it. Just go with what your hand wants to do. Go with what the, I don't know, the rotation of the earth is telling you to do, whatever, you know, whatever you think it is, you know. Okay, so now that we have that, I like to just throw in, because I'm very inspired by Mobius with this type of stuff, so I always like to throw these little buttes in the background, or mountains or something. So I'm just going to draw some quick little buttes here, just little vague whatevers. They don't have to be just shapes, you know. I'm just imagining some cylinders kind of coming up and then giving them rough edges. Boosh, and then a little rough edge over here. And maybe we'll add some clouds in at the end or something, but we won't worry about that right now. Okay, so let's go through, and I already did a little bit of this, I'm sure you saw, but let's erase that horizon line and this border where it comes through, just to, you know, keep things tidy. And we're going to come through with a fountain pen. Well, you don't have to use a fountain pen. You can use any kind of pen. And we're going to do the same thing over top of all this. Well, actually, here, let's give it a light erase real quick before I get too ahead of myself. And we're going to do the same thing that we just did with that kind of loose outline shape, but we're going to follow what we have already, and we're going to add on to it, right? So we're going to add some contour lines, and that's where you want to make sure that you were kind of, that these shapes kind of make sense. So take a second, if yours has a lot of, you know, stuff that doesn't make sense, like as far as three-dimensional shape goes, just go through and just, you know, see if you can tune it up a little bit and get it to where it is, you know, if it's like, it looks kind of like a cylinder, you know, just kind of, you know, make it make sense a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start with our fountain pen, and or any pen, and just, you know, follow those lines. But this time, while we're doing it, we're just going to pick out little edges and stuff like that. Or not pick them out, but kind of let them happen, you know? Just let it kind of use the pencil as a sort of a rough guideline. And I'll go extra, you know, a lot of times I'll tighten this up, you know, when I'm doing it for a video or, you know, to make something that looks really cool and impressive, but we'll go loose here. I'm just going to slop it out here and just kind of keep it. If you're thinking about it too much, you're not doing it right. Keep your brain kind of limber, loosey-goosey, and just, see, just follow these shapes a little bit, but then add, you know, improvise on top of them, right? And then something I do a little too much, I think, is I get a little too crazy with the details. So, and this is something that you're going to want to keep in mind, is let some of the details breathe, you know? Leave a big open space on there. You know, it doesn't need to be full of gibbets and greeblies there. It can just be, you know, it can just be hanging out. It can just be chilling. And then we got a nice airplane going overhead to give us a soundtrack. I actually don't mind the airplanes going overhead while I'm drawing. It just bothers me that they for a while there I felt like they were ruining my videos, you know. But I don't think you can hear them all that much in the recording unless you're listening on like headphones or something. So no big deal. It doesn't even bother me though. They're so quiet compared to the voice in the recording. They're very loud in person, unfortunately. But yeah. So you see how I'm doing this? I'm just coming through. Hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully it's clicking with you. If it's not, just keep trying at it. Just, you know, almost stare through the page, right? Look off into space, and then just kind of get in the zone. And you'll start seeing little shapes, you know, and just grab that little shape. Grab it with your pen. Just give it an outline like that. See what I mean? Cruising through. So like right here is a big cylinder shape coming up this way. So let's define that a little bit, right? We'll get a little intentional here. We'll follow that contour like so. Just a little bit. And then back off. Back to just kind of floating around. Just let your pen wander. And let your mind wander. And then this is where I had that kind of face shape up here. So let's make sure we kind of define that, right? We'll just give it a little something like that. I feel like it needs some little shapes there like that. Some little ribs. And then it's kind of a stern looking face, isn't it? Let's try and lighten that up. That could be stern too. Why not? And we'll just draw some sort of eyelid shapes here, right? And it doesn't hit really, like if you're doing a face on yours, and I honestly, if this is your first try, I probably wouldn't bother with doing a face, but you can if you want, if you're feeling good about it. But just don't even worry. Just the hint of a face, really. Don't even worry if it looks like a good face or a bad face. This is the face. This is an alien face, you know? Like, I'm not even going to give him a mouth. I'm just going to have him sort of integrated into the machinery here, so to speak. And just picking out little edges here, You know, stuff like that. And if you see something, just get it. Okay, here's another big cylinder shape coming this way. I tend to draw a lot of, you know, if I'm spacing out, I tend to draw a lot of tubes and cylinders. I don't know why. That's just how it likes to come out, I guess. Just add some, you know, like, do stuff, you know, you can play around too. Just play with it. Be playful. If you, you know, want to, like, maybe you like drawing little ovals, you know, draw some little ovals. But my advice, I see a lot of people who do automatic drawing. My advice isn't just keep drawing ovals. Like, switch, change it up. Just do them as a little quick accent like that and move on. You'll see people where it's just fields of ovals and it's like, maybe it's a little too automatic. You know, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what, if you are enjoying it, by all means, just draw nothing but ovals on your page. But yeah, this is, this technique is to more make like something that is a little more interesting to look at, I guess. A little more dynamic. I don't want to say interesting because that's kind of mean. I'm not trying to be mean. But yeah, something a little more, there's a little more to it than that. So, yeah, see, and I have a bunch of these tubes coming up here, so I'm going to try and make this look like something besides tubes. Take my own advice, huh? We will draw some big curving shapes. I had kind of a, I think when I was drawing this, I kind of had like a weird like shape kind of in my mind, like, I don't know, almost like a dorsal fin or something. You know, sometimes I don't even know. So it's fine. But yeah, we're just going through, staying relaxed. If you start to feel yourself, you know, trying to take too much control, just shake it off, shake your hands out, you know, flex your back muscles, take a deep breath, stare through the wall, and then you're ready. That's when you know you're ready. And we'll do something like that. Just picking out those little bits, like so. And see, I'm talking to you guys while I'm doing this, so I'm not like hyper focused on, I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing, right? I'm just letting the pen kind of dance around. I think that's what my dad called it, dancing with the moment. You got to let your pen sort of dance with the moment. And he's kind of a hippie. He's pretty cool though. But yeah, just let it dance around on the page and don't even think about it. Don't even worry about it, I guess. You could think about it, but don't worry about it. All right, and so we're going to cruise along this way and do some edges, do some sharp edges over here. I drew a triangle in there somewhere and now it's gone. See what happened? Here, we'll make another big sort of triangular shape. Kind of. An angular shape, I suppose. I'll draw some curves in there. Something like that. And then, let's see, we still have a bunch to do over here. I lost track of it. I lost track. I'm going to draw some kind of, I don't know what those shapes are. They were supposed to be ovals, but my pen was dancing with its own moment for a minute there. So, but that's okay. That's the cool thing about this stuff. Cool thing about this stuff too is that, you know, if your pen does something funky, it just becomes part of it, right? And it's not even an issue. And this can be, I mean, mine's got some shapes to give it like a little bit of depth in the object itself, but yours can be pretty flat, you know? Don't worry about it if it doesn't have a ton of shape to it. I have been drawing consistently for a very long time, so just drawing shapes comes very naturally to me. I don't even have to think about it. But if yours is like kind of flat, that's okay, because we're creating depth with that horizon line, and then this being further down on the page. So it's not that big of a deal if it's kind of flat. It'll be just fine. All right, so let's add some doodads in here. See, and what I'm doing here too is I'm getting all those like crazy details in there, like I was just talking about. So let's try and leave some big space here. Because we don't, if it gets overcomplicated like this, it looks kind of cool, but I feel like my personal opinion on it is that it's a little bit better if it's got some room to breathe, so. And there we go. Now we have sort of our weird pillar monument thing. Let's just give a quick bit of attention to our horizon line and just take that thicker pen. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we're going to use the thicker pen. This is a fine nib, then I'm going to switch to an extra fine. And we're using that thicker pen to just give just across the top edge of that horizon there. And then we can do a little bit of this too. Where you just come out from the bottom edge, just accentuate those kind of lines to make it look like it's grounded, you know, part of the stuck in the ground. Something like that. All right. All right, and I am back. My throat was getting very dry. I needed to grab some juice. So what we are going to do now is come through and we're going to do some hatching. There's a video I made about it that I'll link in the description. And you can use that sort of technique. If you have any questions about it, I will link it. And basically what we're going to do is just imagine a wireframe and start hatching. Here. So this is kind of a cylinder shape here. And we're just going to be very easy with the hatching. But that's going to give us some dimension here. And this part's a little less automatic. We're just going through. There is some stuff we can do that's kind of doodly or automatic drawing here while we're doing the hatching though, and that is contour lining. So we'll find a place here where it makes sense, and we'll do something like that, you know, maybe like that. I would say it's less automatic and more of just doodling, but, you know, 6 in one, half a dozen the other. And just lightly hatching is how you kind of get that sort of, I don't know, surreal sort of vibe. And I'm imagining my light source is top left here, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but just picking out those shapes that we were playing with earlier, you know. See, and like this, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, so I'm gonna toy with it a little bit here. Kind of get it sort of attached or something. Yeah, see, that looks a little better. Something like that. And then over to this part, hatch, 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 peck, peck, peck. And yeah, just be really mindful that you don't overdo it. Leave lots of open negative space. Empty space is your friend. You can always add more shading, but you can't take it away. So yes, if it doesn't feel like it's enough, just tell yourself it's enough, move on, and then come back and look at it later. I think it's the best way to do that. And I really have no idea what's going on with this shape over here, so we're just going to kind of wing it. See, and you'll have areas where it's like, looks like it's should be casting a shadow, so you can just boop, draw your little shadow in there. And then continue along. And don't worry about it if it doesn't line up with the border. Just, you know, embrace the jank, like I like to say. And then this area is the background here that I left, so we're going to be cautious that we don't accidentally shade part that's, you know, not supposed to be shaded. And hatch, hatch, hatch. Just following a contour. And you can change the contour of something by what type of hatching you put on it, right? We can make this, you know, cylindrical, and then make this more flat here. See what I'm saying? Just depending on if you arch your lines across here, or, you know, maybe these come up this way. Because the direction of the line kind of influences the contour of the surface. Or it represents the contour of the surface, so. And I will make a video very soon about how to do, you know, explaining in depth how to do the more complex, like, surface shapes with hatching. You know, some of this kind of stuff. Just really break it down in case you're still struggling with it. I think it's something that even I still have a hard time with sometimes, so it's a constant effort to, you know, get better at it and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so this side of the face is going to be in shadow because we're coming from top left here, so we're going to get the hatching pretty dark under this cheekbone sort of shape here. On the bottom edge of the eye, like so. And then, you know, this side of the nose, obviously we already did that. Underneath the brow. But we're going to leave that top edge of this eyelid here just blank. Like so. Just leave that open. We'll shade underneath the brow like this. And then, yeah, so this other side we don't want to go quite as dark. So we want it to be over on this side. So we're going to do a little something like that maybe. And then we're going to come through here. Get that kind of shaded in. Just a gentle little tuck, 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 tap, 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 taparoo. Just tap around, I guess. Something like that. And then you can decide, if you did a face on yours, you can decide where the face ends and the, you know, nonsense begins, I guess. Is that what we're calling it? The nonsense. But yeah, we can throw in some little gibbets and greeblies, you know, wherever you feel like they need to go. Just drop them on in. So with that stuff too, like I was saying, just be careful. Don't overdo it. We are going to want to be darker on this side than the top edge there, though. So, just, you know, throw down some drop shadows as well as contour shadows, you know, or as well as shading. Drop shadows and shading, right? Is that what it is? I don't know. It's been a million years since I studied anything. Let's see here. Yeah, see, like this is going to have a little bit of a drop shadow right there. But, you know, we got that nice little highlight. And then like this shape right here. What is the shape even on this side? It almost looks like the front of a router or modem or something. I'm just going to give it some straight-ish lines. My hand is spazzing out for some reason. So they're going to be straight-ish. Cross like that. Kind of leave this like bezel-looking part almost. Just open. And yeah, just leaving a lot of stuff open. You won't regret it. Like, you can leave a backlit sort of edge on the stuff on the very outside edge. Let's do a little bit of a drop shadow here. And just a greebly on there. A little greebly. Something like that. All right. So yeah, that back edge there is probably done. We're getting a little dark here, so let's lighten it up. And we'll just make sure that we're not doing too much shading here. And see, I don't know, those lines kind of look like they wanted to dip down there, so that's how we're going to do that. Something like that. Let's do something like that. Sort of a thing I like to do are these kind of things where you follow the contour with like a little panel. So like you just draw straight lines on each side and then arch. And then it's like a little panel on a surface, right? Those are like little greeblies you can do. And then you can even throw like a little extra line or a dot or a circle or whatever you want to do. You can do these lines kind of going parallel to the contour. Or the, not the contour, but the, the walls of the shape, the edge. Like if this was the outside edge, sorry, I'm trying to explain it here. If this was the outside edge of a cylinder and then this was the curved like top, it would follow that outside edge. Whereas this edge follows the outside edge, this follows the curved side, right? Right. And yeah, you can just come through nice and easy does it, and just kind of peck in some stuff. I don't like this kind of open spot on the forehead here, so I'm going to draw some little circles. I think that'll fill that in nicely. Do some stuff over here. Like so. And yeah, you want to be a little bit... This still shouldn't be a battle, It should be, just going with the flow here, seeing the shapes. But you do want to be a little more cautious. A little less fancy-free with this part. Yeah, see, I started shading this like a rounded edge, and it's supposed to be a flat edge, but that's pretty easy to rectify. Let's just... rectify? I don't know if that was the right word to use there. But we're just going to draw some straight lines coming up. Like so. Straight-ish. Come up like that. And bam, it looks like it's got that kind of flat edge there. Oh, let's turn my page back. There we go. And we're going to give this a little bit of a shadow too. Just a little bit. There we go. Something like that over there. And you can create convex. This is something I'll go over in my next hatching video, but we might as well talk about it here too. You can create a convex or concave surface just depending on which direction the curve faces on hatching. So like this one, for example, if I would have done the curve the other way, it would have looked concaved instead of convex. And let me see if there's somewhere where I can show you. Yeah, like right here's a good place. So we'll say this is coming up, and that's a convex surface. Then right back here, we change the direction, and hey, that looks like it's concaved. And then we can go back the other way here, convexed. You see how we did that? Just by flip-flopping the direction of the hatching, we can get some interesting results like that. And I'll have that tuck in there. Just draw a little bit. And my hatching is just tapering up here. We'll grab a little bit here and there. You can even have it turn into stipples like that. And let's see. Let's give it a little bit back here. Right back there. And you can even do hatching almost with just dots. Just like little dots on the edge of a line can create a little bit of depth. You know, if you see a little spot that where you can kind of use that, you know, just some little tiny dots right along that edge. And bam, now it looks like it's a, you know, rounded instead of a flat, you know, rectangular tube or whatever. Rectangular tube. No, a rectangular thingamabobber. All right. And I'm just having a little fun here, adding these greeblies and gibbets in. Real quick. We're just going to finish this foreground piece up here, and then we will get the last little bits of depth added in. With some background action. And it's all this stuff added together is what gives it depth. You know, so it doesn't just look like a big flat page full of like lines. Let's do some stuff up here. Just to kind of, you know, fill in some of that blank space. Maybe it's a little too much blank space up there. You know, we need some, but we don't want to shade it in, so we can just add some, you know, doodads, something like that. You know, we don't want a whole lot of shading over here. This is kind of the highlight side, right? We just want to grab a little bit of shadow where we can find it, but not overdo it. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, I'm sure, but it's really is the most important part about doing this style, I guess, is, you know, less is more. Lots of negative space. We don't want hatching to cover our beautiful open spaces. Something like that. Oh, I got a couple little bits here that need some attention. Oh, yes. And this kind of drawing is really great for being able to add all these like shapes and textures to your mental library, right? When you practice doing this kind of stuff, it's experience toward, you know, drawing from imagination or whatever. So, you know, or, you know, maybe this is your end goal, right? Maybe you're into abstract and surreal stuff like this, and that's what you want to do. But the reason I do it, and what I think it's really the reason everyone should do it, not just people who are looking to do surrealism or, you know, abstract, is that it adds all these cool shapes and lines and, you know, just basically the building blocks of drawing itself, right? It teaches your hand how to, you know, move in certain directions that maybe you wouldn't have thought to do normally. So, I don't know. I feel like this type of, you know, automatic drawing or doodling is what gave me the sort of like distinctive style that I have in my drawing. You know, if I hadn't done this type of stuff, I never would have had the style that I ended up having. So, you know, it's obviously inspired by, I'm going to say Mobius pretty heavily, but I try not to draw exactly like Mobius. Like, I know a lot of people like to make the comparison, but I try to do similar-ish stuff, but, you know, with my own spin on it, right? So, and I was just doubling up some of the lines there, but we don't need to be doing that right now. What we need to be doing is taking a second look. Okay, so step back. We're going to take a second look at it. Now we're going to add some more hatching, right? So what I'm seeing here is that we need all this kind of in this area. Just needs to be darkened in. Because if we do that, it's going to push it back and it's going to give us a lot more depth. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to come through and we're going to start building up our hatching like so. And still following those contours, and just be cautious of where you're doing it, right? Like make sure you're not going over a highlight or something that you shouldn't be. And this is going to help give it a ton of depth. The second pass, this is going to really, you know, push some parts back, but when you push parts back, you move parts forward, right? So very cool. we're gonna just fill this whole area in with hatching. But you notice I'm not doing any cross hatching yet. And I don't think I'm going to on this piece. I don't think it needs it. Reserve the cross hatching for special occasions only. Push all that back and leave a highlight on this edge here. And then let's step back, take a look. And I still see a couple little highlights up in here that I want to darken in. So let's just peck those in. Let's grab these edges here. Something like that. We'll add some hatching. I'll leave that back edge lit. And even those top sort of areas. You can even have like a little bit of light peeking through up here if you want. Just imagine where your light source is coming from. Always imagine that light source. So that's really, even with hatching, you know, it's really what you're doing is drawing light and the way it hits something. So it's important to keep that in mind. All right, let's take a step back and look at it. And yeah, I think that's nice. That's perfect, a perfect amount of shadow. And then this part has all that nice highlight on it. And that's going to give it a nice little bit of depth. So we're going to stop right there. That's where we're going to leave that. And then the next part is we're going to do some foreshortened texture in the background here. So how we do that is I'm going to start by giving these mountains a little bit of hatching here. These buttes, and they are buttes. And we're going to start by doing that real quick. Just peck it in, peck, peck, peck. And then we're going to switch to some horizontal lines here. So to make these foreshortened, we want them closer together and shorter than the lines in the foreground, right? Basically, imagine if this were a rock with a shadow, right? That little tiny line. Up here, we want our rock to be this big with its shadow. And then up here, we want it to be this big. So each one of these little lines is a little bump in the ground. It's a rock with a shadow. And then they're going to slowly get bigger and further spaced apart, like horizontally or vertically further spaced apart, excuse me, as they get closer to us, the viewer. You know, so we're going to do something like that. I'm going to avoid the edge here. You don't have to, but I think it adds a little bit of contrast. So, well, I'll just kiss it. I'll give it a little kiss right up here. A little smooch. But yeah, then as we get, actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to completely go against what I was saying. Now, it's fine if it touches the edge. It's no big deal. Just don't go too crazy. Beautiful. So we're just adding our little rocks in. And they don't all have to be like bigger, because rocks all vary in size, right? But as long as the general size of the rock and bump is larger than the ones in the background, then the trick will work. And same thing here. And then we're just going to grab little edges here like so. And that's really going to make this piece of the drawing look like it's sitting on the ground here. We can add a little bit behind it. And you can be pretty sloppy and random with this stuff. I don't, you know. I mean, you could see there, I'm just kind of spazzing out. It's not too important. Just make sure you leave enough negative space in between it and try and keep it random. That's, I think, a big part of what makes this look nice is just trying to be as random as possible with it. It's really what, you know, ties the room together. So okay, so we have some stuff like that. Let's draw some bigger chunky boys out front here. And we can even, you know, give these a little bit of hatching, right? Because they're so close. You can see the shadows. You can just peck some like dots in there if you want, you know. Have fun with it. And we'll do something like that there. And even this is kind of automatic drawing, right? It's a little bit, as long as you're loosey-goosey with it. Not concentrating too hard. As I get very quiet. Oop. Hey now. Don't get like that. And then I like to get kind of small again as we get closer with, you know, with some of these details. I don't know why, but I think it looks, you know, when these little details down in the front are small like this, I think it looks a little nicer. All right, and then I got this little spot back here I almost forgot about, so let's knock him out real quick. Same thing. And just try and stay loose, try and stay random. And bam, Bob's your uncle. Let's add a little bit of this. And a little bit of that. All right, and then you can see there we've got quite a bit of depth. And I think I just saw something I wanted to do here, so I'm going to do it real quick before we move on. And I'm just going to draw a line kind of right down here and give this nose section a little more texture. For some reason that was bothering me. And I like it better now. So, neat. Neat. All right, so at this point we can give it some clouds, or we can just draw a little bit of a vignette. And let's see how we're doing for time. We're a little bit over an hour. So let's just give it some clouds. Why not? Real quick here. If you're doing this over wet ink, don't, first of all, do this over wet ink. But if you are, like I'm about to, just be careful not to drag the ruler. Lift straight up, place straight down. See what I mean? Yeah. And let's Draw a little bit of a cloud on this side. Let's even have them coming out of the frame. Oops, see, I drug the ruler like I was just saying not to. And then I like to have a nice uneven number of clouds. I like them to be very asymmetrical too. So we'll do that. And then I think I want one way up here high and just hanging out. Maybe even like a little bit further than that one below it. Something like, yeah, so scooch that one back a little bit. And then I'll use a thinner line for the cloud outline. Let's go ahead and I'm going to just sketch these out. I like to do these kind of bubbly looking clouds, something like that. And then I want this one to kind of have a big bubble here and then taper down. Yeah, see, maybe even not quite that big. Let's give it a light erase. Let's be careful not to hit our ink. Careful with the brushing too. I've smudged so many drawings trying to do that. And then, yeah, I'm going to have that one kind of come through and get big again and then taper down like that. And then this guy's going to just kind of come out real thin at first. I'm going to make sure we have that corner of the frame still visible there. And then just like that. And that is a even number of clouds. That's okay. We're going to say that's one going through. I think it looks nice the way it is. Okay, so how I do these is I just, same thing like you just saw with the, pencil. I'll kind of give them a wobbly bottom edge. And then we just come up and make sure the line always arches that one way. We don't want it to go the other way. And do something like that. Same thing. I'm not following the guideline. That's okay. It's a guideline, not a rule, right? Something like that. And I used to do this with Noodler's black that I hadn't shaken up, and I realized recently that if you shake it up, it's actually black. And so now my Noodler's black is black instead of gray. And the Lexington gray is really feathery on this paper. So there's a new sketchbook on the way. And we will see. Because I really like having my thinner lines be in a gray ink. I ruined that for myself. So depending on what you want from your Noodlers, either shake it or don't shake it. But if you don't shake it, it's going to be gray. And then following the contour with some of these hatching, just real light. Go easy. Go easy. And don't forget that light source. Top left. This is stuff I have to tell myself too. If you look at a lot of my drawings, it's like I'm like, okay, where's that light source supposed to be, Or the perspective's all janky. Because a lot of times I'm just goofing around, having fun. I'm not trying to, I don't know. I don't know. It's not a competition. That's all I'm saying with that. But if you want it to look nice, there are certain strategies you can use. Bam. Something like that. Okay, and then the final element, final two elements, we are going to bulk up the peripheral outline. So just come along like so and just follow this outside edge. And it doesn't have to be completely uniform, you know. It can have, you know, if we're coming along like this, it can have a little wobble to it. It can go thick, thin. All we're trying to do with this is to just add a little emphasis to the foreground, you know, the edge of the foreground. And you don't have to do this. If you don't like the way this looks, don't do it, for sure. But I like it. I like that kind of cartoony comic book sort of look, so I like to add this thick outline. And yeah. And we'll end it right about there. Then we're going to come up here. And you can even use this to create some little greeblies, see? Like if you kind of give it like a little chunk shape, something like that. Bam, you got a greebly. Just right on the edge, hanging out there. Greebling out. That's what greeblies do. They greeble. Yeah, we're just following this. I think this is called a stroke in Photoshop. We're just stroking out. All right. And you don't want to do this on the clouds. Otherwise it would kind of defeat the purpose, right? Because we're using this to make the clouds, the foreground stand out from the background. And I'll do it across the horizon line a lot of the time, but honestly, you probably shouldn't even do that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. We'll see what we think. And I used to use the platinum carbon for the fine nib, but I'm kind of switching over to this Noodlers now that I know it's actually black, because the platinum carbon has a little bit of a sheen to it, and when it looks fine in person most of the time, but sometimes like when the light's hitting one ink and it looks a certain way and it's hitting another ink and it looks shiny, it's not really what I intended for it to look like, and it's kind of distracting from the art itself. So that's kind of why I switched. It kind of makes the outline look funky, you know, like. And the Noodler's black seems to dry pretty flat, so it's at least consistent with, you know, with the rest of the drawing. Here. All right. And I was halfway tempted to just leave the bottom edge open. You know what? Let's do that real quick. I'll show you a cool little trick here. And so we're going to line in this whole, just the sky box, basically. Line in the border around the sky. Hopefully that's in frame still. Yes, thank you. And this is still going to have hatching, but what we're going to do is we're going to carry this line out too. And then we're going to use that as sort of a stopping point for this this border line, right? This frame panel frame, whatever it is. Come on. Uh-oh. We're having ink flow issues here. Come on now. Don't treat me like that. All right, and so what we're gonna do, first things, we'll finish up the sky, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of a vignette in the corners here, so. But not on these bottom edges. We want those to stay, you know, with the contrast they have. So we'll just kind of do something like this. And just kind of taper it down like so. Like so, and like so. See, and that makes that cloud stand out. It also reminds me to do some hatching on it, because I forgot. See? Good thing. Why didn't you guys tell me? And then, yeah, same thing over here with the vignette. We'll just... And we're just creating a little bit of a gradient here, is the idea. So taper your hatching. And it's okay if it has a little bit of a wobble to it. I think it actually looks a little bit better if it's a little inconsistent. As far as like the taper and the shape. All this, so. And it would help if the paper wasn't bouncing. So I'll go ahead and just push it down here. And we'll just peck a couple little dots on these edges here. Like so. Yeah, something like that. Looks pretty good. Okay, and then the final secret, the final technique here is just come down and make sure that's in frame. And we're just going to come off this edge here. Instead of drawing a border, and we're just going to grab some lines and pull them over this way on this side. And we'll do the same over on the other side. That was a dramatic pause. The most dramatic of pauses. Sorry, my voice is getting a little hoarse here. I haven't really taken very many breaks on this one, so. My vocal cords are drying out. But yeah, and see what that does is it just gives it that little bit of edge, but just from the horizontal lines, you know. And just keep it nice and random as far as like the length and all that kind of stuff. Except, you know, down here you might want to get a little more, kind of like another little vignette at the bottom corner. Lovely. Bam. And there you go. There you have it. There is your doodle with some depth. Hopefully this was useful, helpful. Thank you for watching. I'm going to pop my signature on here real quick. Go ahead and like and comment and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Let's do it right here. And a special thank you to my patrons on Patreon for supporting the channel, helping me buy art supplies, all that stuff. And I have another name to write in my sketchbook, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and the end screen will play, and I will see you all in the next video. All right, bye.